Alrighty, so the title of today's presentation is Maintenance and Long-Term Planning. And I am going to first start with the agenda. So today we're going to review reasons for weight loss resistance, understand a little bit more about, I say cravings here, but these are just other physiological changes or desires or urges that we experience that may not be normal. It's really the body, more of the body being out of balance. Discuss reasons for weight regain. I'll talk a little bit about our 365 balance program and discuss some next steps if you wanted to move forward with that program, which is an annual membership program. So again, just to touch a bit about plateaus, because I think it is so important for people to understand that weight fluctuations are just so completely normal, especially when you're on a more aggressive weight loss program. So you may have noticed that your weight kind of deviated or fluctuated even when you were following certain things exactly. So just understand, don't let it be a part of your stress. We hear it all the time. Oh my gosh, I gained 2 pounds and I didn't do anything, when really it's just the body trying to rebalance itself. And exactly what I put here, the body is constantly calibrating and trying to create what we call homeostasis. So that is, it's very much to be expected during the process. So what to expect in the next phase. So now that you obviously are wrapping up a more structured plan and going into the more maintenance, so you're adding more calories, you will really start to see obviously the weight loss level off. So it'll be important for you to kind of set some new goals for yourself. And that may be continuing to lose, or it may be, maintaining. Is it just maintaining your weight loss as a goal of yours? So again, just some things to think about. So these are some things that affect the weight on the scale. And again, just part of the whole fluctuations that are very normal. You have not eaten a lot of carbohydrates over the last 4 weeks, I should say. So now as you start to add carbohydrates back in, you may see some temporary increases on the scale just because the carbs are going to draw water into the cells. Salt too, if you were avoiding, salty foods because you're eating a highly just whole food based diet during the program. And now if you start to eat other foods again that have a lot of sodium, you could start to see weight creep up just because of water retention. Exercising too much or too hard can cause some increases in weight, and that is largely due to inflammation because exercise can be a stress on the body. So you usually see that more immediate. And then once the body kind of calms down, then the weight will drop back down. Inadequate hydration is always going to inhibit any type of weight loss process or any type of really flushing mobilized fats out. So making sure that you continue to hydrate as if you were on the more structured plan. Continue to make sure you get enough protein. Most people do get enough protein in their diet, but the protein that they're getting is not always, the healthier alternatives versus, processed protein and things like that. So making sure you're getting like the clean animal, lean choices is important. And menstruation hormonal imbalances can also cause weight on the scale to fluctuate. So just some things to think about. What causes the regain? So weight loss regain, again, it's going to be, this is a different phase. And while we kept you, during the process, you were really eating very clean, but now you're going to slowly start adding the other foods back in. So this will be an opportunity for you to start to identify if there are foods that maybe you're sensitive to. Dairy, I feel like I talk about dairy a lot. Dairy has become such a problem because of the food, the processing, the GMO, dairy comes from cows. Cows are mistreated. They're fed processed grains. They're treated with antibiotics. So unfortunately, now dairy is problematic for many people. So if you start to add that back in and you notice, sensitivities, then it might be a good idea to keep that food out. Other food sensitivities, I can't tell you how many people say, oh, I don't eat this, I don't eat that, I just don't feel good, I get bloated, for whatever reason, if you continue to eat foods that you're sensitive to, it's keeping you in that more of that inflammatory state. So it is going to be, you will start to see weight come back on quicker if you continue eating those sensitive foods. We do not want you to continue following a low-fat diet. The low-fat diet was only for the strategic process. So now you can add all the healthy fats back in. If you wish to continue to weigh and measure during, say maybe like the first month or two, that is, definitely an option for you. It's not like we want people to weigh and measure, forever, because that's a lot to ask for, but it does help people stay on track after you are done following like that specific plan. Nutrient deficiencies, make sure that when you start to concoct a new plan for yourself, that you're not eliminating any food groups altogether, because it actually is quite easy to start to develop food or nutrient deficiencies. So make sure that you're getting a variety. We talk about sleep all the time. We'll talk a little bit more about it. Are you a person who has a lot of stress in their life? Or what I like to say, you have a lot of perceived stress, because there are some people that we all have stress. I mean, every single person on the planet has stress. Everyone handles and adapts to stress in a very different way. But there are also people that have just this perceived stress, that they're always stressed for whatever reason. No matter what situation, it's always stressful to them. If you are one of those people, then this is really worth digging deeper in, diving into it, and see how you can really manage situations and come up with a plan to help your body really manage stressful situations better. Because stress, again, cortisol is increased at all times. And when you have an elevated cortisol, that really puts you kind of in that fat storing mode versus fat burning and that type of thing. But there's so many other reasons why stress, why we need to really get a good handle on it. Inflammation, a lot of people have a lot of inflammation. During the structured part, the weight loss program, the metabolic reset, you should have seen a lot of just inflammation in your body go down, because that is a really, really important piece to our programs. So as you start to, again, incorporate other habits and foods and things like that, you start to see that the inflammation is coming back, then really kind of digging deeper into that and assessing where that could be coming from. I'm going to talk a little bit about metabolic dysfunction. I've been talking more about it, but if you are someone who has metabolic dysfunction, it really is going to put you at risk of weight loss regain really quickly. Because when you have metabolic dysfunction, if you started the program with metabolic dysfunction and you ended the program and you still have some metabolic dysfunction, the likelihood of regaining is just unfortunately higher. So again, I'll help you understand a little bit more about that. So just a quick slide on sleep. It does so much. I mean, it's like filling up your gas tank. It's recharging your body. It's doing so much. So sleep improves your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your heart health. It's when your body detoxifies, repairs, and restores your balance. Your hormones become balanced when you sleep. Inflammation is reduced when you get good sleep. Your brain improves, you improve your gut health. It improves your neurotransmitter balance in the body, reduces depression and anxiety. So again, the benefits are countless. And again, if this is an area that you need to work on because you're not getting at least 7 hours most nights, then it really must be a priority, because I'll talk about like the foundational pieces. We're really trying to get people out of that cycle of, weight loss, weight gain, weight loss, weight gain. So it is our full intention to get you to a better place so that when you lose the weight, you're able to maintain it, keep it off, feel great, for long term. Stress, like I said, stress is a normal physiology, normal body response to certain situations. And our body is usually able to handle stress really well. The problem that exists today is that now people are staying like in that stress state for a very long time, because the body doesn't know the difference between different stressors. So what it does is it increases your heart rate and your blood pressure. It's going to, again, increase cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine. So that's going to trigger certain systems in your body, and not to your benefit of weight loss. Stress increases inflammation, short term, and then the inflammatory response will go down. But again, because we're in this stress state at all times, people have so much inflammation because the inflammatory process never turns off. So this is a big piece to weight loss resistance as well. Stress definitely increases digestive issues, because when you're in a stress state, the body is really focused on helping you kind of respond to that stressful situation versus, digesting and absorbing and things like that. Because most people the body was designed from an evolutionary place that when you were in a stressful situation, you were running, you were doing other things, you weren't eating, right? But now when we're stressed, we're eating. So it's like double duty on the negative aspects of what it's doing to our body. And then of course, then people are gaining weight quicker and even more than what they lost, because a big piece has to do with that type of balance and physiology. Stress can cause negative changes in your brain. And again, if you're in a stress state, you can't really heal, and it's really hard to kind of keep that weight off. So again, certain food cravings could be drivers of nutrient deficiencies. Magnesium, everyone needs to be on magnesium. If you crave a lot of salt, typically that means that you could be deficient in B vitamins or certain amino acids. We'll talk a little bit about the supplements. I know I talked about this in the last one, but B vitamins are also part of like that essential list of supplements that you should be on. Hormone imbalances, so that can absolutely drive the hunger and the sugar cravings. Other things that people deal with from a relationship with food is more emotional and psychological. So if again, you are someone who has always gone to food because of maybe just past life history, upbringing, that is going to be worth digging into that, because until you really come up with a plan to try to address those things, it's always going to resurface. It's always going to come back. There are certain foods that stimulate the reward centers in the brain, which again, I talked about last time. They do this on purpose, so you eat more. Blood sugar fluctuations. So if you have metabolic dysfunction, you typically have this dysregulation of blood sugar and insulin, and that just puts your body all over the place. You're hungry, you're tired, then it tries to rebalance, and then you're hungry and you're tired, so you eat, and then the cycle just continues. Food cravings can also be from gut issues and gut imbalances. More specifically, I know most people probably, this means nothing, but we have so many different organisms that reside in our ecosystem, and one of them is fungus. And oftentimes, due to a variety of different reasons, this fungus can overgrow in our body, and fungus lives off of sugar. So it really drives our cravings to eat more sugar so it can feed itself, basically. Here are the essential nutrients, again, that everybody really should be on. I mean, we just don't get it we don't get it from our food. Vitamin D, some people will say, oh, take 1,000 IUs a day. That should cover you. It's what we know now. There's been so much research. Vitamin D is involved in so many different systems in the body, I mean, including our immune system. And studies are showing that we need at least like 5,000 IUs a day. B vitamins, everyone is going through the B vitamins very, very quickly, just because of the nature of the world we live in. Our body's under stress because of the foods that we're eating, because of the high-paced environments. We have so much responsibilities. And so when you're in a stress state, the adrenals actually will suck up most of the B vitamins. So we're kind of like running on an empty tank. So replacing those B vitamins are very, very important. And those are going to help convert carbohydrates into energy and give you more energy just in general. Magnesium is involved in over 300 chemical reactions in the body. The majority of people are deficient. And, this one is, I really can't say enough about it. 400 to 800 milligrams a day. Some people do better with magnesium in the evening because it does tend to produce more of like a relaxed state, but some do fine with it in the morning. I take it all throughout, like morning, afternoon, whenever I think of it, but, and I'm fine, but my son who takes it, he's like, oh, I get a little tired, so I'm gonna take it at night. So, again, it's up to you, but it can have that sleepy effect. So kind of just keep that in mind. Fish oil is super duper important. It's anti-inflammatory. It's good for our brain, our skin, our joints. The recommendation is just to make sure that you get at least 1,000 milligrams of the DHA. So you should see DHA and EPA on the label, and you want to make sure you're getting at least 1,000 of the DHA. A multivitamin is not a bad idea. I don't think it's necessary to take every single day. I think even if you did it like 2 or 3 times a week, that would be appropriate. And then the probiotic and prebiotic, the majority of people are walking around with gut issues. I mean, we're a weight loss clinic, but I would say, half of what we do, we're spending working with people on their gut. And I now do a Saturday morning radio show on WLIP in Kenosha. And I'm going to be talking about gut health in great detail this Saturday. So if you're interested, we'll also post the replays, but it is just such a crucial part to overall health. And we're missing the point here in our conventional medical model. Nobody really is talking about it. So people just they're really confused. They don't know really what it means. And so I'm going to kind of help break that down and really help you understand, like, what is a probiotic? What is a prebiotic? Do I need it? Which one do I need? That type of thing. We also have 3 different products that might be beneficial for you to continue your weight loss, because it does help with certain things. Like the blood sugar balance is going to help with the blood sugar spikes and the insulin sensitivity. So again, getting that effect can really, really help. Megan, my clinic admin, she says she lost 30 pounds just by taking blood sugar balance. And I thought she was doing something else. When I saw her, I was like, oh my gosh, you look so, and she's like, oh my gosh, it was just cortisol balance and blood sugar balance. So that can definitely be helpful. Cortisol balance, if you are a stressed out person, it's going to help bring down those cortisol values so you can actually burn fat. And then we also have DHA, which is awesome for muscle maintenance. So really helping with muscle, bone density, and reducing adrenal fatigue. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how and why we target visceral fat, because I can't talk about this enough. It's really, really, really important that you understand that in the maintenance phase, you can't just go back to reducing calories, meaning reducing calories below what your body needs. Because if you do that, then you're, kind of just going back to doing what you've tried for so long and it didn't work. So the reason why we create our strategic weight loss programs is because we are very, very strategic in what we go after. And again, I apologize if this is like repetitive, but the visceral fat, which is the deeper belly fat that surrounds all of your vital organs here, is not accessible for energy. Meaning if you restrict your calories and your body is like, oh, okay, there's not enough calories going in because I'm not eating a lot. Your body needs to go somewhere to find calories. So one would think it would go to the fat stores. And it does to a point. It will go to more of your normal fat reserves, which is like your subcutaneous. And then once it perceives that the subcutaneous, we've used enough of the subcutaneous, then the weight loss will stop, because the body will not access the abnormal fat, because the abnormal fat is very inflammatory. It is full of toxins, and it is more harmful for it to go into circulation than to just stay there. So that's why the body basically has developed this defense mechanism to keep us safe. Because again, visceral fat is just, it's very inflammatory and damaging to the body. So when you go back to normal eating, you just want to make sure that you're not restricting, because you don't have like the supplements that are mobilizing and doing what we're doing. So we want to help you kind of transition into that maintenance without continuing to following that 800 or 900 calorie diet, because that your body will start to go to muscle eventually. So just kind of keep that in mind as you start thinking about, what you're going to eat. And this really helps people understand what that means. Our visceral fat are stored fat that the body just cannot access. So it's like freezer food. So if you're really hungry, you haven't eaten for a while, and let's say, you can go to the refrigerator and the food is accessible, right? So that's like your subcutaneous. This is like your subcutaneous fat stores. But let's say you get home, you've been gone for a whole day of travel and you're starving, and the only food that you have is freezer food. Well, that freezer food is not available to you. So it's kind of like how I help people understand visceral versus subcutaneous. The frozen food is just, that's what it is. It's tucked away. It's not usable. And so that's why, you can have 5 freezers worth of food, but it's not going to be usable. So signs of metabolic dysfunction. Some signs would be high cholesterol. So high blood sugar, high insulin, high triglycerides, or just other lipids. And then of course, the visceral fat. So if you've been into our clinics, you've had the in-body done, we're looking at the visceral fat, which is, hopefully you can see this. It's right here, visceral fat level. We like to see this below 10. And so if you are, above 10, or, even above, well, the highest it goes is 20. But if you're at 20, then, unfortunately, you're still in a metabolic dysfunctional state. So it is going to be really important that you either continue to work at it or develop a plan that's going to keep you losing the weight. So again, it all comes down to the different type of fat stores. And, the deeper stuff is really just changing the way that your body burns energy. And, many people will ask or come in and say, I've been doing everything right. I eat a really healthy diet. I exercise most days of the week. I've been doing this for a long time. and I still can't lose weight. So that's why at Weight Loss MD, we do dig deeper, and we talk to our patients about different tests where they can look deeper. So food sensitivities, you can test what foods are causing inflammation or that you are reactive to. Because if you are continuously eating foods that your body doesn't respond well to, that's going to kind of keep you in that inflammatory state. Gut imbalances or infections, you would be shocked to know how many of us are just walking around with infections that we don't really even know about. Hormone imbalances, genetic testing. We don't do a lot of this just because people usually start out with the other tests, but you can really dig deep into your genetics and how your body responds to certain foods, how your body responds to certain exercise regimens, et cetera. I mean, the detail involved in that is pretty significant. Or are you somebody that lives in an environment that is unhealthy? Have you had mold in your home? If you have, then that is something that you really need to dig deep into. I won't get into that. I'm going to be doing my next webinar is going to be on that. But people have parasites. Do you have yeast fungus overgrowth? Some people have Lyme disease that they're like, oh yeah, I have Lyme disease, or I had, I got bit by a tick, and they've ignored that and they don't know why they feel so crappy. So it's really allowing us to really dig deeper into like what else could be going on. And the first step, even before making a decision to do any testing, is completing our symptom assessment, and we can really uncover quite a bit just by looking at certain symptoms. So personalizing your nutrition plan. I know you hear so many things out there, and the way that we approach things, we do it differently. So you may even hear like conflicting stuff. Like perfect example is that we tell you not to eat fat on our diet, but then we're like, oh my gosh, fat, you need that. It's essential. So the confusion is because we are we're very strategic during a process, but then it's like, okay, what do you do when you're not on a program? So as you start to think about personalizing your nutrition plan, I think it's really important to have a good idea of calories. I don't think counting calories long-term is necessary or even beneficial, but I do think everyone needs some type of idea so that you can stay in a certain range and kind of set your boundaries. Also knowing your macros, what does that look like? How many carbohydrates should you be eating a day? How much protein? How much fat? So having a really good idea of what that looks like is important. Also, how often will you be eating? Are you somebody that eats frequently, small meals, frequent meals? And, or are you an intermittent faster? Do you try to stick to like 2 meals a day? So whatever is going to work in your lifestyle, what I would recommend is that you want to make sure that you're not, especially if you have metabolic dysfunction, you definitely don't want to be eating frequently, because metabolic dysfunction is largely driven by the blood sugar dysregulation and the insulin sensitivity. So if you're spiking your blood sugars and insulin all day long, you're not going to reverse that. And you're not going to be able to burn fat stores, because whenever you have an elevated blood sugar or insulin, you go out of the fat burning mode and more into like the fat storing mode. So definitely spreading out meals or doing intermittent fasting a couple of days a week is highly recommended. Start to identify certain foods that don't make you feel well. And it's not just digestive. This could be brain fog. This could be you feel sleepy after you eat a certain food. It could be you get like a little rash on your hand or arm after you eat certain things. Food sensitivities can be anything. It is not just in the gut by any means. So keep that in mind. Setting your goals to after your program, are you looking to continue to lose, or do you want to maintain where you're at, because that obviously your plan would look a little bit different. And thinking about planning for your weekends or events, I do think it's important. I mean, especially at the beginning, because the number of times we're working with our clients about, oh, I had a wedding or we had a picnic and now it's Summerfest and there's this, we're not saying you can't do any of that and eat the food, but you really should have a plan, because if you have a plan, you've told your brain what it should do. So when you're in a situation that you may be tempted by, you're immediately going to go to what your plan was, and it's going to help you overcome certain situations. So really thinking through, certain events as you continue. And, are you a person that wants to create a variable eating plan? Some days you might want to do intermittent fasting. Some days you may not. Maybe you do want to eat more frequently. Maybe you're traveling and you would rather, you always go out for breakfast with the people you're with. So be flexible. It really is about just thinking ahead, even thinking ahead about the restaurant you're going to, what are you going to have? Those types of things. And then again, being realistic, and then really setting those boundaries, those boundaries that if passed, you could kind of start heading down that slippery slope. So really, and everybody really knows like what those are, or when they feel that, gosh, they did so well, you did so well for so long. And then now just certain habits are starting to come back on a more frequent basis. So those are the boundaries that really, even writing those down, so when you got to kind of pull yourself back in. So in summary, I would say, if we could really get people to stop thinking about diet and restriction and start thinking about lifestyle change, what is the one or two, and it can be the smallest thing that you can work on that's a positive change, because it is a snowball effect. It absolutely is. This isn't about, oh, okay, now I'm going to eat this. Exactly. I'm never going to eat cake again in my life. Like, it's not about that. It's really about just making those little changes that are sustainable. Understand that metabolic health is super duper important. There was a recent study done last year. It's the University of Global Public Health out of, I don't know why I keep forgetting that. It was a big college. I'm just blanking on it. But anyway, they did a study that showed that 88% of Americans have metabolic dysfunction. So this state of metabolic dysfunction does make it harder to keep the weight off. So again, really understanding like where you are on that scale. Understanding that weight loss is more than just weight on the scale. And if you continue to lose weight and you're not really sure what you're losing, then I would really recommend that you either get that home scale that tells you what you're losing, whether it's visceral, body fat, lean body mass, because especially as we age, we cannot afford to lose any muscle mass. If we are losing muscle mass, it would be better to keep the fat on. That is how crucial muscle mass is. It drives everything. It really drives. It's one of the more foundational things as well. Sometimes you do need to look a little deeper. So really assessing your body and developing a closer relationship with your body and loving your body. And, it's one thing that I've always been able, I guess, to do. It's like, even just one little thing I'll notice and I'm like, why did that just happen? Did I eat something? Did I do that? It's just really getting to know what makes you feel your best, really. And the foundational components really are crucial. Otherwise, everything will be short-term, because if you're not sleeping, you're under a lot of stress and your diet kind of goes back to just like processed foods. Unfortunately, the weight is going to come back on a lot quicker. So, maybe you focus on one thing at a time. And maybe it's just, what are your sleep habits? And you work on that for a while, because even just addressing one of those foundational things, that could even result in weight loss on its own. I mean, we see that all the time. So the last thing I'll talk about is 365 balance. So this is like our metabolic reset that is an individual program, but the 365 is that you are doing 3 resets per year. So we're doing 3 resets on, the specific dates 3 times a year. And we developed this really so we could get people to stay focused long-term. And it really obviously is going to want it to, drive the long-term results, because, it does change your psychology when you have something that's coming up soon. You start to think about it. You now start to start eating healthier as you come up to your next reset and that type of thing. We also wanted to make it more affordable. So just like a gym membership, you pay like a small monthly fee and you work on it long term. Well, that's essentially why I created the 365 balance, because weight loss is not a one and done. It's, I hate to see people just going, relying on willpower for short periods of time and then kind of going back, working. Doesn't have to be perfect, but, being conscious and making those small changes over time really makes a huge difference. So the cost of it is, and again, the reset that you just did. So that's what you get the choice. You could do either of any of the programs, HCG drops or injections, HCA or HC2. And if you're doing the injections, there will be an additional charge for that. But the cost of the reset is $89. I'm sorry, the 365 balance is $89 per month. Or you can pay in full for $897, and then obviously you get the reset for the full year. So hopefully that makes sense. And we will put some links in the group, in the app, in the group section, so you can look there if you're interested. And that is all I have for you. I'm going to stop the recording and then open it up for questions.